Hello, everyone. My name is Andreas Diaz, or my YouTube channel name, Andreas the Pop Culture Guy Channel Presents. Today is another special day. I'm back here today with Will.
Hey, Andres. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, me and Will are back today to discuss another, I say, a special movie. At its anniversary today is Iron Man 2. Of course, this year Iron Man 2 has its 10th anniversary. Um, Obviously, this is the third chapter and film of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This was directed by Jon Favreau. Of course, returning cast Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow. Of course, fortunately, Terrence Howard didn't return for the first film, so Don Cheadle takes over for James Rhodes, aka War Machine. New cast members, and of course, one major character that's going to be in the long series of the MCU is Black Widow, of course, played by Scarlett Johansson. And then we got the villains, of course, Mickey Rourke as Whiplash, and then Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer. So, Will, you're the one that chose this film, and after our last discussion of RoboCop 2, I was so surprised how much this film is similar to RoboCop 2, but different. I mean, this movie is more enjoyable than RoboCop 2. So overall opinion, what do you think about this film?
Yeah. Well, I agree that it's more enjoyable than RoboCop 2. Although, like we said when we were discussing that film, it's surprising how many similarities there are between the plots of the two movies. I think Iron Man 2 is it's on like the lower end of the Marvel movies, but it's still a really fun movie. It's got good action scenes, the standard Marvel like dialogue and humor. Some really cool like character stuff for Tony Stark in this one. It's a fun movie, but it's not like a standout, I would say.
Now, this one is interesting for me because I don't know if anyone knows about this, or I think I mentioned it before in maybe the last podcast, but in the first, I did an X-Men podcast with Tommy for the 20th anniversary. I mentioned there that, Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie got me into the Marvel comics. And I'm a big Iron Man fan. And so, obviously coming into Iron Man 2, I had high expectations, And, obviously, I agree with you, Will. It's, is a lower tier MCU film, but luckily the MCU films, like Winter Soldier, the Avengers, and Endgame and Infinity War and the first Avengers movie helped to kind of make this movie better, and then obviously some characters did carry over for the other films. Obviously, I mentioned Black Widow, but also Howard Stark, Tony's father.
Yeah. I really like Howard Stark's addition to the MCU because he pops up in really unexpected places all the time, which makes it really rewarding to watch everything that's put out. Like he showed up in the Captain America movies, and then he was also in Agent Carter later, so he's also on the TV show.
Yeah.
He was in Ant-Man. Like it's just fun seeing characters pop in and out of the movies.
Yes. Howard's conclusion helps, especially when you enter in the first Avenger, and it's like, oh wow, they actually this pay off very well because the Stark Expo comes back in that film, and and kind of shows you more detail on Stark's personality and is he similar to his father, stuff like that. That relationship gets more in depth and more context later on in the films. Like the first Avengers, you get more the idea that Howard admired Steve when he was working with him during World War II, and and obviously that kind of gives Tony this resentment for Captain America. That he had to be better and much more like he was trying to get his attention to his father to be a better man and try to elevate technology, and that is like very interesting when you go down the line the MCU films.
Yeah, it adds like a very interesting layer to his relationship with Captain America. Um,
Yeah, yeah, and Captain America too. Yeah, I guess um, the I guess I mentioned I'm like an Iron Man fan. Are you a big Iron Man person, Will?
I mean, I love the movies, but
Okay.
I haven't read any Iron Man comics. I've seen some of the Avengers cartoons, so I'm familiar with him from that. But other than that, not really. But I love the movies. I've seen them countless times. So
Yes. Yeah. Um, oh God, especially when soon when we talk to Iron Man 3, it'll be funny. Just get your opinion on the magic twist. I guess we kind of get into Tony's arc in this film. What do you think his arc is in this film? Um,
I think it's coming to grips with like um, being like at this point in the Marvel universe, he's really like the only mainstream superhero, right? Like
yeah,
the Hulk isn't considered one. Captain America's been frozen for 70 years, and no one else is really around yet. So there's like all the weight of the public's eye on him, and he's kind of cracking under the pressure. Um, he's ignoring that the palladium inside of his arc reactor is slowly killing him. He's kind of, well, not ignoring it, but he's got a death wish almost. He's acting really irresponsibly and
yeah.
erratically because he just wants to like live as much as he can for as long as he can.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when we cut back to his Malibu house, Jarvis mentioned how, from like he has this line where every test results of a new art corrector has failed, and he mentions like the feeling is killing him. So we already know prior to that he was already starting to find some solutions, but none of it was successful before he meets up again with Nick Fury, and how it leads him into the the riddler of his clues, and and the expo map that shows like a new element of the arc reactor. Uh, yeah, that's right, folks. Arc reactor map is the clue of his survival. Oh God. Um, yeah, and I feel like yeah, I agree with you how like he's like that desperate, and then he's letting like how you say he's letting his ego and his like desperation consume him too much and not thinking clearly of his actions, and so
Right.
it just lets him to be alienating everyone, especially Rose and Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which I mean, I I guess we can get into like what's the best thing about this film? Well, for you, like what it did for Iron Man and stuff like that. Like, what's your favorite aspect?
Um, I think my favorite part of the movie would be Sam Rockwell's performance as Justin Hammer.
Of course.
He's just a great like comic relief. He's a great like second tier villain.
Yeah.
It's just a joy to see him on screen, and I really wish they would bring the character back for more things. Like they brought him back for like a DVD extra a few years later, but that's been it. And he's such a great character. I feel like he'd add a lot if they brought him back for like a Spider-Man movie or something.
That's a good one. Or in Ant-Man and the Wasp, a lot of people in the internet cut up in if in Ant-Man and the Wasp, there's like what was it a Goggins character who's the main
Yeah,
villain. He
yeah,
said he has his sponsor, and that could have been Justin Hammer. That could have been
that That would have been good. He'd be good in an Ant-Man movie since those tend to be more like comedy focused.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. And everyone, if you don't know what Will's talking about, DVD is the short films they used to do. Um, the short film that he's talking about is called All Hail the King. He has a little small cameo there. That's in, I think, the Iron Man 3 or third Dark World DVD set, where we see Ben Kingsley's fake Mandarin, Trevor Slattery, and of course that short film confirms there's an actual Mandarin, etc., etc. But Justin Hammer's there, and it's a cool. It's kind of cool for me as an Iron Man fan to see like an Iron Man villain, and then he's in another Iron Man villain that has got arrested. Like, but again, just not satisfying. And then I agree with you, Will. He, like in the comics, he sponsored technology to like B-list villains that are like tech based. Like
Okay.
Like Whiplash is a good example. Titanium Man. Um, uh, who is it? The Sun Flame. I'm trying to figure out. It's been a while to get into Iron Man stuff. I'm trying to figure out his rogues gallery. I mean, basically like Tiltman, Daredevil's villain. That has long leg.
Stiltman.
Tiltman, thank you. Like
Yeah.
that. Those kind of criminals.
The like C-list villains, like not even B-list. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So like kind of like those villains, and again, it just shows the lack of commitment with Marvel Studios and their villains, and just continue them in the films. Besides Loki,
Yeah.
Okay. I do want to go to best aspect of this film for me. I think, like, for me, it's kind of tough. I guess for me, the best aspect of this film is probably Rose.
Mhm.
I really like Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
His best performance is Iron Man 3, folks. His performance there is hilarious. He has chemistry with Robert Downey Jr. But for Iron Man 2, I like his performance here where he's acting like a military man. I like he's like a friend to Tony. He's trying to help him out.
Mhm.
And I feel like he's the most consistent character. And I think I like the way he gets his armor. And I don't like we just didn't call him War Machine right away. But I mean, I don't know. Like, it's one of those like 2000 things. It's like, oh, we have to contrive his name around somewhere. So
yeah.
I think John Cheadle is the best aspect for me in this film. Other things that's best, I would say it's just the technical stuff of Iron Man 2. The cinematography of this film is really great. It's from the guy that works for Darren Aronofsky, who did Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan, and what else? The Fountain. This film looks gorgeous. I really like the design of the Stark Expo, and I think the cinematography of this film is really great. One of the best in the MCU.
Yeah.
You had something to say. Well, sorry.
Just like watching this movie makes me feel really nostalgic for like the Phase 1 movies, because especially back then, all the different series felt a little more unique. I feel like there's like a Marvel feel now, which is fine, but it was cool to see like an Iron Man movie and then a Thor movie and a Captain America movie, and they each had their own distinct look. And I think the Iron Man movies always looked very like sleek and modern and nice, and it's definitely happening in Iron Man 2.
Yeah. And especially and one last best thing I would say is the Merkel racetrack with the iron suitcase. For me, the best thing about this film, like, it's one of the best
suitcase. That suitcase is so cool.
I know, it's so amazing. And for me, like, when you get to Iron Man, and it's like, oh man, it's such a silly thing, but then in this film, they made it so cool. I was like, oh my god, that's so much better. It's so practical, and it's like, oh my god, that's such a cool thing. And
I love.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
very quickly, I'll let you talk, Will. One other thing, it reminds me of another armor for Iron Man, the Silver Centennial armor. Uh, that's like a famous one in the '80s, and I like how they make that into this armor suitcase. That's the suit you see in Iron Man 3 when he's in the oil rig. So
Yeah.
yeah, the shoulder pads, if you see that suit.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, go ahead, Will. What you were saying?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that watching like Iron Man throughout all the movies over the 12 years that he was in the different films, it's cool to see how they like slowly progress the technology of his suits. So like it starts off and it takes him a really long time to like get into the suit or get out of the suit, and he needs the special equipment in his mansion, and then later, like in this one, it's a little more portable, or he has like other places where he can get in and get out of his suit. And then Iron Man 3 like comes to him, and then all the way to Endgame where it's like nanotech.
Yeah.
It's cool that they like slowly progressed it. And
Yeah.
But I think the suitcase is the peak of mixing like coolness and practicality.
Yes.
It's such a cool like suit up sequence.
Yeah, one of the best. And he perfects that suitcase in the Avengers. If you pay attention when he's trying to get the Mark 7 out, it's he pretty much made that heavy armor into a suitcase. And so it's cool from this movie. He thought about how to make it, because this suitcase armor doesn't fly and is not too strong or durable, as you say it. And so you look at Mark 7, it's like an extension to the suitcase. And it's very cool how he did that in the Avengers. Because, I agreed. I do have one criticism is, the suits here. I wish the Mark IV was a little more distinct. It's just too similar to Mark III. But, whatever. We get, the various distant designs and layer on the film. So that's my only complaint for the suits in this film. But, okay. I guess what's the worst aspect of the film for you, Will? Worst thing?
It feels like nothing of consequence really happens. Like at the end of the movie, everything's back to the way it was at the beginning of the movie. Which there's like a fun story in between, but it doesn't really change the status quo at all. I also think that Whiplash as a villain is just really campy, and it's fun, but it's really hard to take it seriously.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. I had to disagree with you, buddy.
Okay. All right.
Okay, let me explain why. I think Whiplash is an interesting potential villain that was great for the first half, but it's just the second half. He's no longer like he's not like he did it. How to say it, like Whiplash is a very interesting and potential villain, but his surface to the film was done after the first half when he attacked Stark. He's trying to do like kind of like the Dark Knight to show like the world that everything is not perfect, and like for Whiplash, he's trying to show people that Stark is not the nuclear tenant, and like Whiplash himself can correct the technology that Stark has.
Yeah.
So he's trying to prove a point.
Yeah.
It's just sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But he has that great line that I think is better than like anything else that his character does. I'll let you get back to your argument against that in a second. But the line is, if you can make God bleed, people will cease to believe in him.
Yes.
That's such a great villain line. And it's like a good counter to Stark's arc, where he like thinks he's invincible and is like coping with the poisoning. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
But what were you saying before?
Oh no! You hit the nail on the coffin wheel about that. Like he's trying to prove a point, and that he's not the perfect hero that a lot of people think he is, and that he's not like himself and stuff like that. And so he's doing something that's great. But then when you get to the second half of the film, that's where everything just falls apart. He's just like we just we don't see these plots get executed right, and
Mm-hmm.
so we don't get a satisfying thing. And then Whiplash just is kind of there, and like that's where like Justin Hammer's there, but it just kind of like it struggles to give Whiplash some things to do, and I don't like him wearing armor again, another armor villain.
Yeah.
It it's like
Yeah.
I prefer the deleted scene where he kidnapped Pepper and and without his suit. It makes more like an imitated like final sequence than just an armored battle. Really, I just
Yeah.
yeah. He's a one and done character for the first half, and like that's perfect. But then they just drag him too much in the second half, and it's like, you know, um, yeah, and he is a serious character. It's just like the second half, like you get these jokes and gags that they try to deal with him, and it's just like I don't care. Like the parrot thing is like I want my
Yeah.
bird,
I want my bird.
and I'm like I don't care about your bird. You're a
Yeah.
villain. It just
Yeah.
shows the commitment, the bizarre commitment that this film does with the humor, and it's just not my type, not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
And then I guess other any worst aspects you want to mention? Um,
No, I can't think of anything else that like stands out. What about you?
I do want to mention two things. I
Mm-hmm.
want to mention the setup of the Avengers. Um, I mean, it in hindsight, it's not the worst thing about the film. It's like to me, it's okay. It's a good expanded universe of the MCU. But if you think about back then, it's like why you're doing this, like if you were aware of like the build-up of the cinematic universe, you were like, oh my god, they're really going hard of setting up the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like a normal viewer seeing the Iron Man 2 the first time, it's kind of like expanded universe for the Iron Man films, and like it's fine for you. So it's okay. I think the little bit stuff that carries over the MCU is great. Like Howard is a great setup from this film, and
Mm-hmm.
it goes to its logical conclusion, especially in Endgame. And then, um, what was the other one that's set up here? Um,
Black Widow and Nick Fury too.
yeah, that. Yeah, I mean, you got those characters that carry over for the films, and they're great. I mean, um, I guess we kind of get into, and that's my last theme for the worst aspect of the film. But the setup of the Avengers is not too bad, folks. It's okay, you know.
Yeah. It has the classic like middle chapter in a trilogy problem, but weirdly
Yeah,
the final chapter was the first Avengers movie, but the second movie feels like it only exists to lead into the third.
yeah, yeah. I mean, especially the Avengers. Like Avengers, like is like a Iron Man 2.5,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah,
carries
definitely.
over the sequel stuff. Let's get into best characters in the film. I mean, you mentioned um Justin Hammer. What other characters you like?
Uh,
Sorry.
Bless you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Um, I really like Black Widow in this movie. Um,
Industry.
yeah, I mean, she doesn't get a lot to do. Like, I think they definitely improved the character later. They
Mm,
gave her more of a personality. But I think there's a lot of cool like action sequences with her in this one, and it's cool to see her do like spy stuff and like assume a false identity, because that's stuff that she's known to do but doesn't really do in any of the other movies. And I'm hoping in her solo movie she gets to do a lot more of that.
Yeah. Yeah, she's an interesting character. Yeah. Black Widow is she's serviceable of the film. I mean, she has better introduction than Hawkeye. So
Yeah.
I mean, she's basically.
Well,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
well, Hawkeye was more of a cameo in Thor.
Well, yeah. But the thing is, I mean, you could easily make him like a supporting character like Coulson. Coulson's in that film, and he has a lot to do. But I don't know. It's weird. We're not in Thor, folks. So it's just kind of weird. Like they did that for Hawkeye. I'm like, you could make him a supporting character in that film. Whatever. Yeah. Black Widow is serviceable in the film. I just see her as eye candy in this film. I mean, they do like very like gratuitous things with her, mostly just I don't want to say it, but like you guys know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I agree. I also think that the fight scene where she and Happy Hogan infiltrate Hammer Tech, it might be my favorite part of the movie. Where he spends the whole 3-minute fight scene fighting one guy, and then he looks up and she's beaten the other 12
security guards. Yeah, I love that gag. That was a good setup. Oh my god.
And
yeah.
The fight choreography in that scene is really cool too.
Yes. I agree. Yeah, Black Widow is an interesting character. Yeah, her movie's coming up, and it's interesting to see her and her appearance of the films, and this film is she's very unknown, very straight nonsense spy, and they haven't yet explored the Russian background that she's a KGB until the Avengers. What do you think about her costume?
Just the black catsuit thing.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, it's fine. It's standard spy stuff. There's nothing about it that really stands out.
Yeah, it's very blue. if you look at the pictures, like the porno show pictures and the behind the scenes stuff, it's very blue for some reason.
Shield is traditionally blue. So
yes.
I guess that.
Yeah.
Maybe they were thinking that.
Oh yeah. There's a couple of constant art that she's very Shield costume, and it looks good. I just don't think it carry over well into live action.
Yeah, no. In the season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that's airing right now, there's a few episodes where they had the classic S.H.I.E.L.D. costumes from the 70s comics. and it they look ridiculous, and in a really fun way that was great to see on the show. But yeah, it does not translate well to live action.
No, don't tell me that. I love those.
It's fun and it works. I definitely recommend watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. if you haven't seen it.
I definitely want to see it. I'll probably just start season 4 because I don't know. Agency is just interesting, but we're not there yet. I don't know. Her costume's good, folks. I mean, it's the least favorite of mine. You know what? It's second least favorite because my least favorite is the Avengers Age of Ultron suit. I never liked that suit. Ugh.
The one that lights up?
Yeah, I don't get why they put blue. I just feel like red made more sense. And I don't know why. And you see a concept art from one of the artists, they showed that she had a red highlight. And it's why they went with that? I just don't get that. It's just weird. Yeah, and I guess best character. What are the best characters you like? Well, besides Black Widow. Any else?
I mean, the obvious answer is Tony Stark. He's
Yeah.
just really cool, and I don't know. Like I love Robert Downey Jr.'s like delivery of his lines, especially in the first two Iron Man movies.
Mm.
Everything just comes off really like natural. And, he's so smooth when he plays this character.
Yeah. My favorite line from him when Natasha was going over his like even plans in the Marco scene.
Mm-hmm.
She say like, "Oh, you have a 10:30 dinner plan," and then he say like, "I'll be there at 11." That was so cool. Such a great delivery. Oh my god, that was the best line.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for me, for best character of this film, besides War Machine, for me could be, yeah, I probably had to go to Justin Hammer. He I mean, I love Sam Rockwell, and
Mm-hmm.
Justin Hammer is another character who's the best in this film. I just love his, like, I just love how they just make him be like a wannabe Tony Stark character, and I feel like Sam Rockwell does it very well. I guess my favorite scenes from him is his what is it? Oh my god, there's so many good scenes with him. Oh, the one he's showing out the weapons to John Cheadle. That's great. I love his delivery of the was it the pump of dragon, purple dragon line? That cracks me up. Mm-hmm. And it's like the what else?
I call it the ex-wife.
The ex-wife, yeah, that one was really great. Like that scene cracks me up. It's just hilarious, and like, yeah, and then his last conversation with Whiplash is funny too. He's like, "How you make this meat feel?" You know, just yeah. It's a very he's such a funny character, and I wish he came back. Like he's such a like I read the comics, and he's another major character in the Iron Man shows, and like he can serve a great purpose, and I'm just disappointed that the MCU hasn't used him properly.
Yeah, well, maybe they'll bring him back for something else. they have a history of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, not for long term.
Oh, yeah, I mean they brought back General Ross.
I mean,
after like 10 years.
Oh my god, 10 years.
Right. Well, it was Civil War came out in 2016.
That's 8 years.
8 years, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
I mean, I don't want to repeat myself, but like, was it in World Cup 2? Yeah, like I mentioned that like it couldn't have been other general military person.
About this last time.
You know, and I just like I'm a big Hulk fan. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna do that, I just want him to be in the scene with Mark Ruffalo, and that just makes it more awkward. And so, I don't know.
I mean, Bruce kind of hides from him in Infinity War.
Man, that's true. That's just so weird. I mean, they did a good job of turning villains like Loki and Thanos.
Yes, yeah, Loki's fantastic in these movies.
Oh yeah, Loki's great. I'm excited to see what they do with the Mandarin and Zemo. I'm very excited for, and I'm thinking who else they did well returning. Elise's Claw. He's a great one that turned, and like
I was sad when he spoilers died in Black Panther.
I know.
I was surprised. It worked really well for Black Panther's story. I was just sad because I really liked the character.
I know, and Andy Serkis was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he was the best part of that film. After Killmonger. I mean, they could do it well. It's just, like I just know, like maybe just Justin Hammer is just not enough as a villain, I guess. But I don't know. It's
Yeah,
just
he's a
weird.
good like background villain, like
Yeah,
not the guy pulling the strings, but
yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, good like secondary antagonist.
Mm, true. Well, we'll see, folks. I mean, we'll see what they do down the line. But I mean, right now, just we just got the short film for that. Um, okay. Get into other. What's like the worst character in this film for you, Will?
I think I have to go with Whiplash.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, I mean, like I agree with what you said earlier that in the first half he's compelling, but he's a little cartoony, which didn't really fit with the first movie's vibe,
mm,
and I don't know. They don't really go too much into his backstory. Like they do a little bit,
right.
but not enough to make me like care about him.
No, like, well, and his response is to the Stark family, not specifically with Tony.
Right. Yeah.
There's other problems with his character that um, does affect him as a character. Um, I I mean, again, just the execution is pretty bad.
Mhm.
And you mentioned something that doesn't fit with the first film's vibes. This film doesn't feel at all the first film's vibes. I want to say that, like the the improvisation this time around is kind of the worst than the first film, where the first film felt genuine, and then
Mhm.
the the payoffs and stuff like that. It's not really like satisfy, and it just doesn't give you that kind of huge relief like the first one does.
Mhm.
Like his suit got like freeze up, and then when he did that to stay in suit, it was such a great payoff. And then the art director, like you have a heart, Tony Stark, and that gets paid off very well
Yeah.
of him reusing it. Here, this film they do have a couple payoffs, but it doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
I don't think this film is really connected at all with the first film. So I'm just
Well, the first film is so good that it would be hard to live up to it, and I
mm,
feel like they
yeah,
probably had more time to like make the first movie since it was the first one, and then they kind of rushed this into production once the original Iron Man was a success. So
yeah,
I think it shows that um, the longer you have to like prepare and make the best film possible, the more likely it is the film will be good.
yeah.
If you rush something, it's not going to be as great as it could be.
Oh yes, especially Thor: The Dark World.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like it's good to compare that to this, but I mean, it just shows they have at least a strong skeleton of idea,
Hmm.
and then it's just Thor: The Dark World just falls apart the
Yeah.
minute you see it. It's like
Yeah.
I, it just astounds me. Yeah, um, I think that's the lesson that Marvel learned from this and Iron Man 2, not to rush stuff,
Hmm.
and in Age of Ultron as well, to jam pack stuff as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. Then I guess I do want to mention Pepper.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean,
She's.
she. Oh,
Or
I'm sorry.
you go first.
I want to say she's not the worst character of the film. I just don't think she gets enough to do like the first Iron Man film or the third one. I liked her more there, and
Yeah.
I just feel like they don't serve her well in this film.
Yeah. She is. She definitely has more to do in the other movies.
Yeah. Um, what do you think about, excuse me, Tony and Pepper's relationship in this film specifically?
I like that. Uh, like the second movie started, and it wasn't just like, oh, happy couple from the first movie. I like that there's conflict between them, and I think it's good that Tony's relationship with Pepper is part of what like drives him to become a better person and improve himself. But they don't. I don't know. There's something kind of off in this movie. Like I don't feel like the payoff at the end is earned.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they were just fighting, and then at the end of the movie, they like make up and kiss. It doesn't feel like enough happened to justify like that much. Like I definitely a reconciliation, but not like romance.
Yeah. I mean, the unfortunate thing is they didn't focus enough Pepper and her relation with Tony in the film, so it just ends up being okay. And then you have this line where she said she quit. She's quitting the CEO thing, but then it kind of gets retconned from Iron Man 3 that she still is. So like there's stuff in Iron Man 2 that was very unclear. It gets kind of clear up more in Iron Man 3. And I feel like that was the one that I was like, oh, really? So I just, but
that happens a lot with Pepper. I get a lot of like whiplash, to pardon the pun, when she like,
oh god,
she'll like end one movie feeling one way, and then they'll go to the next movie, and I don't know if it's like based on Gwyneth Paltrow's availability or not, but she'll like she and Tony will either be together or split up, and we don't see any of that. Like in Civil War, we're told that she and Tony split up because he like was too obsessed with work, and then at the end of that movie, they're back together.
Well, presumably, but like remember Spider-Man: Homecoming? That was confirmed they got back together.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like after Iron Man 3, there's like a bunch of really important things that happen in their relationship, but they all happen off screen.
Yeah. I feel like, well, she appears most in the phase 1 and then entry and just phase 2. But then after Iron Man 3, like I think there's a progression of her character with Tony in the first phase. From the first 2, and then the Avengers, and then Iron Man 3. It's a logical conclusion. But then when we don't see her on screen, when we start doing that really towards the end of phase 2 with Age of Ultron, and then it just continued in phase 3 until Homecoming till Endgame.
Yeah.
So her character is. I mean, to be fair, that happens with other characters in the MCU. It's like back and forth with their arcs and their appearances. You know, Thor has this. Tony has this completely in phase 2 after Iron Man 3. And like, you know, I think Pepper got better when she gets back into the Spider-Man Homecoming, when we started to do more with her and Tony and like what's going to happen in Endgame, I feel like. So it happens with other characters, unfortunately. You know, so yeah, it's a weird. So again, this is just how the MCU handles characters, and they struggle sometimes to juggle them in these films and crossovers. So, okay, I guess. What do you think about Nick Fury? We haven't mentioned Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury.
Yeah, well, this was his like first full appearance in a movie.
Yes,
so
true.
It was interesting to like learn more about his character in this one.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah. That's life.
Really...
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to. Oh, I'm sorry. I was. Let me say something quickly. For
Mhm.
my favorite line for him is say, uh, like I got your on you, and like he has the eye patch. Like
Yeah.
that's such a hilarious gag they just did. Now go ahead, Well, and that's it.
Yeah. I feel like he doesn't have a lot to do in this movie. Like he shows up to just spout exposition and set up the Avengers. Um, but besides that, you don't really learn too much about him.
Nah, um, or not Shield. I'm kind of surprised. Don't learn about more about Shield as an
Yeah.
organization. Um, yeah, Nick Fury's good. I mean, he's accessible as well, like Black Widow.
Yeah.
It's just he's just there to set up the Avengers, as we'll say. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. He looks cool. He looks cool in the eye patch. He's Samuel L. Jackson. Uh, so I have to
Yeah.
say, but another character that definitely continues on from this movie, as well from the first film, is Agent Coulson.
Yeah.
I don't want to forget to talk about him, but what do you think about him in this film, Will?
I'm. This was the first film he was in where I like noticed him as a character. Uh, like I remember like watching Iron Man, and he was just the face of Shield. Like he didn't feel like a person.
Okay.
And then Iron Man 2, um, he gets a little more like personality. Like we see him kind of geek out over the Captain America Shield prototype in Tony Stark's garage, and he has
Oh
that line
yeah,
about like tasing Tony watching Super Nanny.
that's my favorite line for him. He always cracks me up.
Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
I love Coulson. I'm a huge fan of Agents of Shield, so
okay, that makes sense.
yeah, it's fun to like go back and see him uh, before the show.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, Coulson's great in this film. He gets better. He gets great one-liners, and again, he does a really good job being a successful character to cross over to the films. And like it's cool he set up Thor in the post-credit scene, and then you see him again in Thor. So it's really great to tie in so much of this with him as a Shield agent. I
Yeah,
think they did a good job of doing that. And yeah, and I mentioned the what is it like you say, when Tony is trying to convince Coulson to let him go, and it's like, look, I'll tase you, and if you try to leave, like he's trying to say, like you tried to leave, or and escape from this facility, I'm gonna chase you and I'll watch Super Night while you drool in the floor. It's such a perfect line, and it's
yeah, and
just
his delivery is really good too because it's just very like matter of fact.
yes, I know. Oh god, it's just funny. One of the best lines in that film. Okay. Let's kind of get into what other characters is in this film. I just don't want to miss some other characters.
Um, Christine Everhart is like a reporter who was in the
Oh
first
yes,
Iron Man movie. This is the one
yeah.
that he sleeps with at the beginning of the first movie.
Mhm.
Uh, and she also pops up in some of the like um, promotional videos that Marvel made during Phase 2. Like there's like YouTube videos leading up to the release of Ant-Man, and she was a newscaster explaining like PIM technologies or um, Scott's arrest
Oh,
for
wow.
like driving a car into a rich person's pool while he was stealing um, like
Wow,
information. Yeah.
that's very cool. Yeah, she's a comic book character. It was great that she came back. Um, and and they pay off like her like was it like her peace puff whatever about Tony.
Her spread.
Yes, her spread.
Yeah, it's a good. Like I really like the dialogue whenever Pepper or Tony are talking to people. Like,
Yes, I agree.
there's fun like wordplay. The delivery is always
Yeah.
really good.
My favorites are their conversation in Iron Man 3 with the bunny, and like it cracks me up. Yeah, their banter is great in this film. Uh, my favorite is the security guard. Like, I was under attack, and he's like, "Get in the car." It just cracks me up. The pressure. Yeah. Um. Oh, actually, there's one character we have to talk about. It's Jon Favreau's Happy Hogan.
Yeah.
Yes. What do you think of it? He got a bigger role in this film. That's the thing.
He did, yeah. It was kind of a small role in the first one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that. Like, that's a character that was just originally a small role. He was Tony's chauffeur slash bodyguard, and he just evolved into a character where, like, in Spider-Man 2, he's a major character in the movie. Like, it's fun to see characters like get more spotlight when they're well liked.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, folks, and Will, like, as an Iron Man fan, I want to say Happy Hogan is a major character in the Iron Man comic books. So for this film, looking back on this film, I was happy that he got like an expanded role, just like Pepper and Rose had. So and just think, as an Iron Man fan, for me, I'm like, oh yeah, he like, it's incredible to see him through the films when he pop up, especially in Homecoming and Far From Home. Is incredible. Just another way for me to have another piece of an Iron Man, when Tony leaves, So it's just great. He gets a couple good lines here in the film, and great moments. My favorite is definitely him just trying to beat this one guy, and Natasha got all the security guards from Justin Hammer's facility.
Yeah. Do you know if Jon Favreau is a boxer in real life? Because he, like, Happy Hogan boxes in these movies, and then Jon Favreau had a brief arc on Friends, and his character also did like mixed martial arts.
Really? I think I'm looking at his Wikipedia. I don't think so. Oh no. Hold on. I don't think so. I'm looking at it. I mean, because he graduated from the Bronx, so he's born in Queens, New York, conveniently. So I think it's just a quirk he just added with that character, I feel like.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out if the character Happy is a... Oh, yes. Okay. I'm looking at the Happy Wikipedia, and he is a former boxer. Happy. I forgot that in the comic books, I read the early comics of Iron Man. He's a former boxer, and he became a chauffeur and personal assistant for Tony in the early days. So that's actually the comic book character straight. So no, it's not with Jon Favreau. It's just...
Okay, it's just he happens to have played two characters with a history of boxing.
Exactly. Which they don't... that's the thing. Like, you had... Like for me, like, as an Iron Man fan, like, I totally forgot about with that character, because they don't mention that in the films, with the Iron Man films.
Right.
So and you see a little bit in like Damage and stuff, So what else? Speaking of like weird traits, like weird things you see in this film, do you know like Kate Mara and Olivia Munn was in these films as well?
Yeah, they have really small roles, which is weird because they're such big like names now. Exactly. Or even then, Kate Mara was kind of big, I want to say.
Rising.
People knew who she was, yeah.
Well, her sister was... that's another factor. Her sister was rising up. I guess let's get into trivia and facts, I guess. The big one is like War Machine. Like, the reason for Rhodey John to the Iron Man armor is similar to what happened in the comic books because of Tony's like alcoholism, but it's in
Right.
under a different circumstances. I want to say.
Yeah, the demon in a bottle storyline.
Yes, correct. Which I'm sad they didn't push forward for that because that could have been great.
Yeah, it feels like the Palladium core storyline in this movie is just like a watered down, family friendly version of that, where he starts like acting reckless. Um, he drinks a lot in this movie.
Which,
Um,
yeah, that's weird. Yeah, yeah.
it feels like the original script might have been a more strict adaptation of Demon in a Bottle.
Uh, yeah. Like, I mean, folks, like, for me, that's like the best part about Iron Man. Like, the reason, like, if you like the Marvel stuff is because they're like relatability. I kind of like the idea of like a addicted superhero, and like, alcoholism isn't something we don't talk about in medium at all. And so like, hearing Iron Man being the one character will know that is interesting. And I have the one shot of Demon in the Bottle, and it's really great. I highly recommend reading that. And it again, it just shows the disappointment for me in this film, how there's so many potential they could have done, but they don't really did they just don't go for it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Or it gets, unfortunately, this had studio manually, unfortunately, for good reasons and some not good reasons, um, um, what else? Yeah. And there's a couple of like armor wars storyline,
Mm-hmm.
particularly, Tony trying to keep his armors away from the government and stuff like that. And, that could have been another like better storyline for them to just take than Demon in a Bottle, because at least Armor Wars is a little more friendly. And,
Mm-hmm.
you can easily like put other Iron Man rogues into this, like
Yeah.
the Leaving Laser, and the Knight, and Unicorn and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's just weird. Um, what else? Another interesting fact, and this is a well-known one. Do you know who was going to be Black Widow before Scarlett Johansson?
It's Emily Blunt, right?
Yes. I When I heard that, I was like, really? And I could, I mean, especially if you see The Devil's Wear Product, or hopefully I spelled that
The
right.
Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah, like she has a redhead hair, and she looks the part. And I mean, if you're not a fan of Emily Blunt, just get out of this, service, folks, because she's great. And I definitely love her to be a Black Widow, but it didn't happen. Do you know why? Oh, sorry, Will, you want to say something?
I was just saying they might be able to get her for something later. So she
Oh,
might show up
that's
in a
true.
Marvel movie at some point. But what were you
Yeah.
gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say like the reason that she couldn't do it is because well, presumably for schedule conflicts, but it was just her contract with Fox was still ongoing, and she had to be in Gobbler's Travel that year. So,
Oh, well,
yeah,
I'm sure she's happy that she got to be in that blockbuster of a movie instead of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I know.
Uh,
It's I
yeah,
I
I
just
hope they find something for her later.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I I just want to be cautious because sometimes when they hire a favorite actor, it's sometimes not what you want them to be. Sometimes,
Yeah.
like you have Danny Glover in Spider-Man: Homecoming. He could have been another major character, but I know he plays Miles' uncle, but like
Yeah. Well, it's he plays the Prowler, like the
Flyer, yeah,
character who is the Prowler in the
yeah,
comics and in Into the Spider-Verse.
It's voiced by Mahershala Ali.
Yeah, but it's
Conveniently,
the same character.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it would be cool for Donald Glover to have a bigger role, but I'm hoping that they're just setting it up for like Miles having his own movie later, and then Donald can play a good villain role.
That's true. I'll cross my fingers when that happens. So, okay, what other things? Apparently, I'm looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe fandom.com, and there's one note that's interesting. They're saying that Edward Norton was rumored to reprise his role as Bruce Banner in a cameo for this film, as foreshadowing of the Avengers, but it didn't happen. So that's interesting.
This is interesting. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. I mean, well, and you kind of, I think that could have been more sense because we got the footage from the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, in this film towards the end when.
Yeah.
You know,
and Tony Stark showed up at the end of the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, which that was for me. That's my favorite cameo because it got me into the MCU. Like, oh, they're actually doing this. So.
Yeah, that was the first crossover.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But also other industry, just like MCU facts, like in the MCU universe, we got the Senator Stern in this film, and obviously his conclusion is just the best one out of this, especially because with the Soldier, he's a Hydra agent.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in future Marvel movies that retroactively make this movie a lot more interesting.
Yes.
Like him being a Hydra agent. I think I said this on the RoboCop 2 podcast, but it makes it more interesting that he's trying to get the suit because that means Hydra's trying to get their own Iron Man suit.
Yeah, which is fascinating. Yeah. And and it just rolls back to their connection of killing Tony's father as well.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting in that Senate hearing that Tony Stark is arguing against like government control of his suit and his superheroics because that's the opposite of his position in Civil War.
Yes.
I think it's cool to see how his philosophy on that evolves over the films.
Yeah.
Especially after Age of Ultron, where he sees how much damage can be done when he just acts kind of recklessly and does whatever he wants.
Yeah. Yes, and shows that he's a human person, and I like how he sometimes tries to fix it, but he just takes it to the extreme measures sometimes, and I feel like, but it makes him a very interesting character. So
yeah.
What else? I think that's it for other facts because I mean, I'm trying to figure out what else that is notable in this film.
Whiplash's father shows up as a character in Agent Carter.
Yes.
Yeah, season 2.
Yeah, that was a great payoff. I like that.
There's a shot of a kid in the Stark Expo.
Oh yes.
In the end,
exactly.
It was Jon Favreau's son wearing an Iron Man mask, and Tom Holland and Kevin Feige have said something about that possibly being Peter Parker when he was a kid.
Yes, that's another one that's been brought up again that made this film more important.
It's a fun like headcanon for people if they want to believe that that's Peter.
And I could believe it. I mean, he's in like the right age.
And they're in Queens. So.
Exactly. And it makes sense why he loves Tony Stark. He got saved and he became a hero. That makes sense. I totally forgot about that. Thank you, Will, for bringing that up. That's the other one that people now has made that like somewhat canonical because it fits in well enough, you know. So
And just going off that, like the theme of this film was legacy and like how Howard
yes,
Stark was passing his legacy on to Tony. I think it's interesting to watch this movie now after Endgame and Far From Home, where we see Tony passing his legacy on to Peter Parker.
yes, that's true.
It's just another interesting dynamic and another way in which Tony Stark as a character evolved throughout the movies.
It's, it's very true. Also, like Mysterio is similar to Justin Hammer if you think about it. Like he wants to be Tony Stark as well, and like you know, if you look at how Mysterio does it, he completely modeled Tony as like he modeled himself to be Tony Stark with the beard, and like he wears a suit that's like you know mixture of Iron Man slash you know the other Avengers characters,
Yeah,
and like he's after the legacy of Tony Stark as well.
right.
Just like Whiplash. Like he's almost a mixture of the both villains in this
Yeah.
film.
I think Justin Hammer wants to be Tony Stark, the uh, millionaire uh, playboy philanthropist,
Yeah.
and Mysterio wants to be Iron Man. He wants to be the beloved superhero. He wants
Yes.
all the credit. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. That's a better analysis for mine. That makes sense. Tony want Justin being one more like Tony as a weapons manufacturer, where Mysterio wants to be, you know, Quentin Beck wants to be more of like the hero Iron Man.
Right.
You know. Yeah, I agree. Okay. I guess let's kind of just wrap up some stuff. Like what do you think about the legacy of this film? What do you think its future, like these last 10 years? Do you think it got better when the MCU kind of like when the MCU was starting to roll up with more movies? And what do you think overall the legacy of the film?
Yeah, I think like we've been talking about things that were added in later movies, kind of
Mm,
retroactively make this film a little more interesting. But I still think as more Marvel movies came out, this feels like it's on the lower end of the list in terms of quality. It's a little like it suffers from a lot of the problems that sequels often do.
yeah, sometimes hit. You know, when the first film was a major hit. You know,
Yeah,
like Iron Man.
yeah,
Yeah. I guess for me, it's I I think it was the one. Yeah, like it's kind of interesting saying the legacy and how the theme of legacy is in this film. Uh, it's I guess for me, the legacy of this film shows, you know, Marvel can put like at least a decent film that isn't bad enough. You know, like they can handle production problems or
yeah. Like
like
even their worst films are gonna be like passable action movies.
yeah, and when it, like the good example that is Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah,
Like I
it's
don't like it. I don't like it,
it's
but
Thor: The Dark World is aggressively okay.
exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. It's okay. And folks, it's not like it's not fantastic or the bad X-Men films.
Right,
You know,
it's watchable.
mm, uh, yeah. I mean, well, the Oscar stuff is watchable, but not their stuff. I can.
Yeah, no, Thor: The Dark World, I meant, is watchable.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. I've never seen, and I don't want to.
Don't do it. If you know, if we do like a talk about that, it's just will be one time, and that's it. We'll leave it like that. Yeah, and I mean, it's important for Iron Man as a character because he's like the linchpin of the MCU, and you know, you look at this film, like because Iron Man was the only success they had, like the whole the Incredible Hulk wasn't successful enough, and
Right.
so you saw how he was like the only thing for them to bounce off to, and so I mean, this movie, whatever your opinion on this film, it helped to usher in the MCU, you know, and it did well in the box office. The reviews were not as highly regarded as the first film, but like it was enough for you to go back and see it again,
Yeah.
and and it helped to push Thor and Captain America, and I mean, an extent that those two films are spin-offs from this film,
Mhm.
Thor is foreshadowed in this film with the New Mexico and then the post-credit scene, and then Captain America literally is in this film, but you don't think of it, like stuff like
His
oh,
shield shows up. The
exactly,
Tesseract is in Howard Stark's notebook.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then Tony's relationship with his father is another important thing that gets developed in the first adventure, but you see Howard and Steve relation, and then you see how in the Avengers it's like, oh wow, there's other extension about that relation that affected Tony, and like
Yeah.
it's a better sequel of Iron Man 2, and so but yeah, I think the legacy of the film will be more like it's accessible sequel to the first Iron Man film, but it's a important part of the extended universe for the MCU down the line. So
Yeah, it sets up a lot of things, even if it doesn't stand alone as well.
exactly, yeah. And I guess, yeah. I mean, and that's what I say. No. You want to rank this for the Iron Man films, and then how you place this with the Iron Man trilogy? Is it your last, or
I would do Iron Man, then Iron Man 3, then Iron Man 2.
whoa? Iron Man 2 is your favorite of the
No,
Iron Man?
no, the other
Oh.
way. It's my
Oh,
least
sorry.
favorite. So
Okay.
number 1 is the first Iron Man, then I like Iron Man 3, then Iron Man 2.
Yep. The same for me. Same list. Because we're not gonna rank the MCU right now.
It takes so long. There's so many movies.
I know it's 23 movies, but you want to rank them with the main players like Thor and Captain America. You want to do that because it'd be better. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, let's do that. Like they have 3 films together.
Yeah.
So 3 films. 1, 2, 3.
How would you rank the Thor movies?
So, like, obviously, the last, like, for number 9 is Thor: The Dark World. That's the worst of the 3 main films.
Yeah.
So we'll put Thor: The Dark World as number 9 for me. Then we up to 8. For you, what should be 8?
I would probably put Iron Man 2.
Yeah. I agree. At least Iron Man 2 is better than Thor: Dark World because it's a lot funnier. It's grounded. Where, for me, Thor: Dark World is disappointing because it's supposed to be grandiose and it's not. So, and their scenes are bad in Thor: Dark World. Just saying. Okay, then 7.
I would do Thor.
Yes.
I have a soft spot for the first Thor movie. I really like it, but I recognize that it's kind of boring.
I'm with you, Will. I have a soft spot for that. I really like the first Thor film. It has that charm and like confidence that some of the other MCU films doesn't have. And
I don't know if it earned the confidence, but it definitely has it, and I appreciate it.
Right. Because I am a big fan of Kenneth Branagh in general, and
he's a great director.
And I just like the way he directs the first Thor film. and the human characters are terrible. They're terrible. They're not as bad as the second film.
Right.
So, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It has one of my favorite lines, like one of the CEO agency, the Warriors 3 and Sif, and like we got Sion, Robin Hood, and Jackie Chan walking.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Okay, and then number 6, I'll put the first Avenger, like,
Okay.
because I feel like it's a better standalone film over Thor, but the third act it's not bad. It's just they tried to contrive some stuff in the third film to set up the stuff later on, like Bucky's death and his future role, and then how to get Captain America into the modern world, which shouldn't have been contrived. It's like it was very easy from the comics. I don't know why they made it so hard for them.
I don't know. I disagree. I think it didn't feel contrived. It felt.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I also have a soft spot for the first Captain America movie. I really like the aesthetic and the cartoonishness of it.
Yeah.
It's very unique compared to all the other Marvel movies, and I wish that they could do more with that tone.
Yeah, I agree. For me, like, I like alternate history, and I just don't think the MCU films do it right, or just they don't do anything creative for alternate histories. Just in my opinion, folks. I know Will probably disagree, and I understand. Like,
I mean, it's not that much of an alternate history. It's just they're Nazis and they're sci-fi Nazis. I don't really. It didn't seem like Hydra made that much of a world impact in the MCU, at least in World War II.
Well,
so.
and remember, Hydra, especially who was a Sola, he did that intentionally because he wanted to try to take away the hope of the society, as he mentioned in Winter Soldier. So I feel like that makes a lot of sense when you get into Winter Soldier. Like that part, I'm not bothered by. And like I'm just saying, like they shy away too much, like the Nazi stuff. But then, Carter mentioned that is like a separate, like subsidiary for the Nazi.
They split off from the Nazis during the movie.
Yeah, because they're a science division, but then Red Skull took over and make it different.
Right. Which I mean, I wish I could see more of Captain America punching some Nazis, but
yeah,
Hydra's still interesting.
Yeah, and I was surprised for Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
But that's my number 6. What's your number 6?
Mine would be Iron Man 3, I think. Although we're getting into the movies that I really like, I just can't rank them all high.
Yes, that's very true. I'll be okay. That's cool. Yeah. I do like Iron Man 3. It was hard for me to get over the Mantra twist, but when you watch some of Shane Black stuff, it made me more appreciate of his work. And
Shane Black is a great director. I love Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
And The Nice Guys.
Nice Guys, that's good.
Yeah. Okay. Entry number 5 for me is Thor Ragnarok. I want to say that.
Okay.
It's definitely the best Thor film out of the 2.
The 3.
Yeah, out of 3. Yeah, that's just true. Yeah.
The 2 that you are happy to watch.
Exactly. And recently, I watched it with my mom. She liked it. I actually watched it a couple of times now, and it's still great. It's a confident film over the first 2 films. It has a strong vision than what I think the second film just lacked.
Yeah. And
I just feel like Taika Waititi was such a perfect director, and it does everything right as an MCU film, and it's very accessible. Like, you don't have to watch any of the Thor films or his appearance at all. because this film just covers it very well.
Yeah.
So I put it as number 5.
Okay.
What's your number 5?
My number 5 was the first Avenger, Captain America.
Okay. Good choice. I agree. I understand why you like it. It's a really great, like it throws you back like the serial like days.
Yeah.
And, like I just love it. It has a great heart. I want to say that.
Mm-hmm.
It has a great heart in the film, and I like that. That's why. For me, I think it gets better because of the sequels. I think I appreciate more because of the sequels, what they do with it, and like it pays off well. And for me, the Captain America folks, it'll be no surprise the Captain America will be the highest here because they're the most consistent, the most like best films of the MCU film, in my mind. Yeah. And Red Skull's a good villain. I do want to mention that. I just wish his takeout was better, but I mean, what are you gonna say? Like,
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now we got 3, 4 now. Number 4 for me will be Iron Man 3.
Okay.
I think Iron Man 3 was a better film over Iron Man 2. It's better focus. I think it has a story of Iron Man. I love the PST scenario. I like it. It covers up, like it kind of, for me, it gives me the demon bottle, but in a very unique way, and I like that. And so that's one of the things I like about this. And 2, and speaking of the Captain America films, this is a good counter program or like counter to the Winter Soldier in terms of the political talk they do about, how government and like how they sell out, to the bad guys. It's so interesting, and how we use medium, like how medium scares off us, like it's such an interesting superhero film discussing those topics. And it's like, for me, it's interesting to talk about in this film. And the villains are interesting, and I just wish we didn't have this one twist that kind of just destroys the interesting stuff that we have. I feel like
I think it would have been more interesting to have the Mandarin actually be the leader of a terrorist organization like he had been set up to in the first Iron Man movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him in Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings.
Yeah, me too. It breaks my heart as Iron Man fan not to see an actual Mandarin versus Iron Man. That for me crushed me a little bit when that announced. I just wish I wish the Iron Man should be built up to the Mandarin. That's the thing. I don't know why these people are saying it built up to it. It didn't really build up to it at all.
Oh, in the first movie they did. The Iron Man 2 doesn't really do anything. But in the first Iron Man movie, the terrorist organization that kidnaps him was the Ten Rings. They were called the Ten Rings.
Yeah, I know. I'm like I have to say, I'm saying they didn't build up to those people from the first film and to this film. I'm saying. Yeah. I'm sorry. I should have been more clear. But thank you, Will. But it's a better film. I think Shane Black, this is actually the most voice director of, like, it has a director's voice out of the Phase 2 after James Gunn, and then the Russo brothers. So I really like that of the Iron Man 3. What's your number 4, Will?
My number 4 was Civil War.
Wow. Okay. This is interesting. Okay, tell me. Why you put it at number 4?
I just, the 3 movies that are left, I think, are better or more compelling. But I really like Civil War. I'm not trying to say anything bad about it. There's some really good movies on this list.
That's true. Yeah. I'm a little concerned for me, but hearing Civil War in the 4 is cool. That movie is incredible, and like it has a lot to give you, so I can understand. What was the aspect you like about that film, like to put it at number 4 and stuff like that?
I really like all the character interactions in that movie. I like Tony and Steve's relationship. Steve and Bucky. It's just really interesting to see those characters bounce off each other, and it really feels like the culmination of Tony and Steve's arcs together.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. That's my favorite, the Tony and Stark relationship. And especially handling the more serious stuff. Like, I mean, I don't want to mention Batman v Superman, but like, this is how you do a superhero fight, like superhero versus superhero, and their ology, their philosophy. I feel like this movie does it so well, and like doesn't take itself too seriously. It gives you enough serious, but also levity. It's impressive, and interesting, like introducing new characters into the fold of the MCU, but also into their new franchise. Obviously, Ant-Man was introduced to the fold of the MCU after his solo film, and then this film introduced some of the Phase 3 solo films we're going to get, like Spider-Man Homecoming and Black Panther. And it's very impressive how they juggle so many characters. But yeah, I like it. Right? So I guess I will counter that as number 3 is, for me, is oh man, how to say it? You know what? Yeah, I'll just put Captain America: The Winter Soldier in this as number 3 for me. The Winter Soldier.
Okay.
I mean,
That's number
3.
Yeah. Okay.
Winter Soldier. For me, I like it. It's tough because I seen both of them. I rewatched them recently, and like it's hard for me to choose which ones. I just think for me, Civil War has, like, it gives me a lot. But Winter Soldier is a very tight, precise, focused film of all the MCU films. It has the best action films. Has the best villains, which I like how they handle Hydra, how they handle Winter Soldier. I really like how they took Captain America as a character that I didn't hate, or like I just didn't gravitate to in his first 2 appearances of the MCU films. His solo film, The First Avenger or The Avengers. This film got me into Captain America. I was like, oh wow, he is a cool character. But I care about him, and like, they made me care about the character. That's, for me, as a movie viewer, that's very important for me. As a comic book fan, you need to get me into this character because I need to care about him. And they really do. I mean, his scene with Peggy is very strong and powerful, and I really like it. Again, the Russo brothers are amazing. They do a good job of handling the characters. This is the best film for Black Widow and Nick Fury in general.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I was so disappointed especially with Nick Fury, how he was handled so far in these phase 3 and towards the end of phase 2. I just wish we did more with the Hydra outbreak and stuff like that, but what are you going to do about it, But Black Widow is amazing in this film, and one day we need to discuss about the Winter Soldier, and because like her film is coming out, but I feel like this film was very important of her character development. Yeah. So that's my number 3. What's your number 3, Will?
Mine was also The Winter Soldier.
That's cool.
Yeah. I think it's the strongest of the Captain America movies. It has its own like look and voice, but it still feels like it's connected to the others, and it's great action, a compelling plot, good character moments. I already liked Steve Rogers going into it, though. Like, I loved him in First Avenger and First Avengers movie.
Yeah, I should say that I like his first film. I think the Avengers didn't grab me to his character fully. Well, his first 2 Avengers films doesn't do. I just they don't do well with Captain America in those films. That's my opinion, folks. Especially Age of Ultron. There's these things. But whatever. I agree. I'm very happy we're in that same line for number 3. Okay, number 2. Okay, I should put number 2 is Iron Man. I would say.
Okay.
It's a Iron Man. The first Iron Man film for me is my number 1 or number 2 favorite MCU film all time. It's a personal film for me because it got me into Marvel comic books, but also it's the first Marvel character I got into, and so I put it as high as in the main trilogy, or we could say it like the trilogy, Marvel, Thor and Captain America.
Yeah.
And
the big 3.
Exactly. And I think his solo film is great. It has this like energy, this flair you don't get sometimes with some of the MCU solo films, and like it gets into the character so well. Like it's one of the best character-driven films after Batman Begins, and so I think that's one of it stands out of the MCU film. It doesn't feel like an MCU film, but it sets up stuff that what makes those solo films work. In the Marvel film. So you have to give credit due to this film because it helps what you need to do as a superhero film or action film, whatever.
Yeah, it really changed the genre and helped define a lot of things for Marvel.
Yeah. Yep. And again, Will, you're right. Robert Downey Jr. is a great actor. His delivery of dialogue is great, especially in this film, and especially his emotional scenes in the first film is really great. I love the scene about him, like he's like I'm supposed to die, but like there's a reason I'm still here. It's great stuff. And the cast is great in that film. Jeff Bridges is great in this film. I just love his line. Tony Stark built this in a cave with a bunch of scraps. I just he brings that level of great presence and threat compared to some of the other basically the Phase 2 villains.
Because at least Phase 2 villains were kind of weak.
Yeah, I want to say, folks, Phase 1 villains are good. They're not forgettable like Phase 2. It's just the way they get killed or how they adapt them sometimes are a little weak. So I mean, Justin Obadiah Stane, Ironmonger is a serviceable villain. He works in the film, but it's a great solo film. So number 2, what is for you, Will? Number 2.
My number 2 is Thor Ragnarok.
Whoa! I knew it.
I love Taika Waititi.
Of course.
And just I'm a huge fan of Norse mythology, so it was fun seeing different things from that come into play. But definitely Taika's humor is definitely what I love most about that film. It really reinvented the character, made him more interesting, fun to watch. So I love that movie.
Wow. I want to say, you mentioned the Norse mythology. I love, the joke about Thor. He told Valkyrie and Bruce about Loki tricking him about the snake, and I didn't know that's actually the way Thor, the real Thor in Norse mythology, gets killed. He was like, "Oh, when I was a child, I was fascinated by snakes, and then of course I pick up one, and then I was looking, and he stabbed him, and Mark Ruffalo's reaction is like, oh my god!" He turns around and sees Loki, and Loki has that smirk. It's one of the best jokes for me. It's so hilarious. Oh my god. Oh god. I love Taika Waititi. Have you seen his other films like What You Do in the Shadows?
Yep, love that movie.
I love that
watch
movie.
It every October for Halloween.
Oh my god.
My favorite movie of his, though, is Hunt for the Wilder People.
Oh my god, I need to see them.
It's really good.
Oh my god, I know. And Sam Neill's in this film, and he's in that film. I want to say that.
He's in a lot of Taika's movies, I think.
Oh, that's cool. Oh yeah, and they're both New Zealand, right?
They're both from New Zealand.
Yeah. Oh god, and Matt Damon's cameo in this film was hilarious. I love the Thor that they're up there. I was like, oh my god. And hearing Anthony Hopkins saying, pardon my French, oh shit, and like he just he sees Thor. Oh my god, it cracks me up. Oh god, oh god, yeah, this movie is great. I wish I put Thor Ragnarok higher. I just because like it's just his trilogy. Thor's trilogy is so inconsistent. It just but I agree what you have said so far, Will. It reinvent Thor. Taika Waititi has a voice, and he's very confident as a director, and he brings it all in this film, and I love that. So, but I think, I think you did the right thing, and it's a great film. And also it projects Thor's story arc in the later Avenger films, Infinity War and Endgame, so well.
Yeah.
Some retcons, especially in Infinity War, but it worked well, and he had better things to do than the first two Avenger films, honestly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. Yeah. Okay, let's get into number one. Yeah, I will put Captain America: Civil War. I love this film. I think it's the one that I like. Besides, like I haven't seen, like, when you see films twice, for me, that's when I say you're my favorite film. Like Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014 were my first Marvel movies that I saw twice, and they're my favorite and personal. When I saw Civil War, I saw it twice, and I love this film. I think Civil War is one of the best, almost the best film to start off Phase 3, and it show you what Marvel Studios can do. Phase 3 is the better phases, folks.
Yeah, Phase 3 is very good.
Yeah, strong, consistent. I mean, yeah, you got a couple that I don't care about, but it's only two, and that's great. Or the rest I can care about.
Which two don't you care for?
Not that bad, but like I'm like, okay. I would say Ant-Man and Wasp and Captain Marvel. I would say. Okay. Captain Marvel I like more, and I just wish the execution of Carol's, Carol Danvers' character arc was better, and Ant-Man and Wasp, I don't want to say it's bad. It's just I wish they were a little more, like, I wish they had a focus and like importance than just being silly and just small. Like, I get we're small, but like it doesn't mean like it's such a weird movie for me how they approached their second film. So yeah, it's a little hard for me to explain like why I don't care.
We don't have to get into it right now. But.
Yeah, exactly. But those are the films I just feel like it didn't reach the height, but I mean I don't hate it, like Thor: The Dark World or Age of Ultron, or the Incredible Hulk. That's forgettable,
Yep.
So I Civil War was a great start of Phase 3. It did the impossible, handling so many characters but doing very well compared to other X-Men films or Batman v Superman and their universe. I mentioned previously before how that they not only brought in some characters into the MCU fold and exposed them to the wide audience like Ant-Man. They did a good job of setting up two new characters for their franchise, Spider-Man and Black Panther.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at Batman and Superman, they were trying to establish 5 characters and one character that got one solo film. But after that film, like, it was like apples, tomatoes, whatever you call that phrase, Um, it's a really strong content film. I love the action scenes. The airport scene is iconic, and it's very, very good.
Mhm.
What else? As an Iron Man fan, I really like this one for Iron Man. I think they did a better job of handling Iron Man than really Age of Ultron. I don't know. Everyone talked about this. This is a better Avengers movie over Age of Ultron. I feel like this did better of handling themes and characters more than, for me, what Age of Ultron did.
Mhm.
In my opinion, folks. I know some will like the film. I understand, and I just personally, for me, it doesn't reach. It just didn't accomplish what they were trying to do, fortunately. And I think Civil War did it better. But yeah, so that's number one. What's your number one?
My number one is the first Iron Man movie.
Oh my god. I Yeah, well, I was gonna tell you. I
Well,
was considering putting it at number one, but I felt like, let me change it up. Put number two as Iron Man. Wow, I love this now. So, yeah, let me, yeah, like, what make you put Iron Man, the first Iron Man, in number one?
yeah, I just think it's a really strong, like, standalone movie. Like, it doesn't have to be connected to the greater MCU to be like a great film. I think there's a lot of great, like, character arcs, and the dialogue is memorable and compelling, and cool action scenes. Um, it felt very unique when it came out. It felt special.
Yeah,
And I think it really cemented the Marvel, like, formula, but since it was the first, it didn't feel like stale. And I think anything that has come out since that has tried to, like, copy that um, isn't quite as interesting, or doesn't, like, grab you as much as the original Iron Man did.
mm. And I want to say, I think the NCU films, do it better over the ones outside of it. I feel like DC, like, the good comparison is Green Lantern, the 2011 film with Ryan Reynolds. It
Mm-hmm.
was trying to be like that, and it fell miserably.
Yeah. Um,
And because,
I,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Will.
well, yeah, I just think DC would be better served to, like, try to do their own thing instead of copying Marvel, which they are doing, and it's worked out well sometimes. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I because the interesting thing about it, like, Marvel did a good job handling the formula of what Iron Man set up, but they did it differently sometimes with these films. Like, Thor is not like a direct origin for Thor. It's like a coming age kind of film, and he's already
right.
set up as Thor. Where First Avenger is like a traditional superhero origin story, but like it does a very good job of doing character development.
Yeah.
So that's the thing I like about that film. It's just like movies like Ant-Man. I feel like that's a better film with, like, I like the train montage. I like how he gets to prepare himself to be Ant-Man, where the third act falls out. And then you got Doctor Strange, which is a good solo film, but like it struggles what Doctor Strange should be as a
Yeah.
person. And I
Yeah.
feel like it didn't have the confidence like the first film of Iron Man. And
Yeah. Doctor Strange felt like it was trying to be Iron Man, but with magic
yeah,
instead of being its own thing.
exactly. The best origin story so far for me has been the team ups. Like, Avengers is a good, like, origin story film. Guardians of the
Yeah.
Galaxy is great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I put Guardians over the first Avengers as a good team up film.
Uh,
Or are you
hmm.
gonna disagree with that?
Yeah. The first Avengers movie is so good.
Oh, I agree.
Um,
I understand why. For
yeah.
you, I understand. Yeah, I'm just saying that's my opinion because I love Guardians, and I
Yeah,
just
no, the first Guardians movie is also incredible. But
yeah,
the first Avengers movie really is, like, top tier.
yeah, of course. And yeah, I'm excited for Internals coming out this February.
Yeah, well, it'll probably get delayed because of the pandemic. But
Yeah. Oh
yeah, I
dear.
think everything's gonna get pushed back about a
Yeah.
year.
Oh no, please. It's already bad today. I heard Tenet is moving to next year, I think. Oh
Yeah, yeah, I think I saw that it got delayed indefinitely.
God, I
Um,
hate this.
yeah, well,
Yeah. Um. Well, that's our rankings, everyone. Anything else for the first Iron Man film? Will in the
no,
ranking?
I think you covered it pretty well when you talked about it as your number two. So
Yep, that's true. Well, thank you everyone for joining this podcast of Iron Man 2, the 10th anniversary talk. Thank you, Will, for coming back again.
yeah,
I was very
thank you for
happy.
having me. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. After what RoboCop 2, when you mentioned Iron Man 2, I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. uh, Connections.
Yeah,
um, yeah. It was really fun to go back to see this film and just see, like, man, it's already 10 years.
yeah, that feels crazy.
Yeah, and this is like the third film of the MCU film, and then 10 years we're in 23 films.
Yeah,
Or
it kind of exploded after that.
exactly, it's incredible. Um, yeah, um, yeah. I guess I mean we set up Iron Man 2. What you want to do for a future podcast? Well, another Marvel Studios film or something else? What you want to do? Um,
If you wanted to do another Marvel movie, we could do that.
okay. I like. I don't know. This pandemic is getting a little crazy. I don't know because I want to do like a Black Widow lead up because and like I don't know. I guess you want to do Thor: The Dark World. Um,
Okay, yeah. You
yeah,
want to just do
let's.
the sequels for
Yeah,
the big three?
yeah, the big three. Yeah, because it'd be better to do something different. So yeah, so let's do Thor: The Dark World and get that over with.
Okay, yeah.
You know. Um, yeah, because I haven't seen properly Thor: The Dark World, so I'll be trying to see again.
Mhm.
It's full. Okay, so everyone, our next podcast will be Thor: The Dark World. Soon. So, and yeah, thank you, Will, for coming. Um,
You.
yeah, and yeah, everyone, have a nice day, everyone. Of course, subscribe and like my content of my YouTube channel, Andreas, the pop culture